I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Dr. Bones, listening to Dr. Bones.
Good evening, this is Dr. Bones live, back on for the third time tonight, and I'm going to be doing an interview with Mad Anderson tonight with her new album, A Light Through Glass. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having us back.
Very, very excited, and I was very excited to get the album as well. Listened to it all the way through, and I listened to it quite a few times, and I very, very much appreciate it. And like I said, just before we got in the air, thank you for the autograph as well.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, guys, this album is so, like, it's very in depth, and it's very not necessarily all over the place, but the way it flows is just nice because it kind of goes up and down and gives you the different feel to different types of music and different strengths that both you and Nolan have.
That's great that you noticed that. We put a lot of thought into the flow and the song order, and actually even when we were trying to choose which songs we were going to put on the album, we were trying to figure out how it would flow together to kind of create, I think we've talked about this before, sort of a story arc.
Right.
And so, so that was really deliberate between Nolan, myself, and Dennis and everybody, so yeah.
Well, it's just one of those things that once I heard everything all the way through, it made a lot more sense because I did get the 4 songs that you sent ahead of time before the album actually came out.
Right.
And after we talked about it, and it's just amazing how much more sense and how much more how much better the album is after hearing all that stuff. Because talking about with you, with your background in basically classical vocal training, that sort of thing, and Nolan, Mad Anderson's being a band before you met Catherine, and she started singing the songs you've written, although they were personal. Everything makes a lot more sense now.
That's good. I think we've accomplished what we were hoping to do then.
So let me tell you, I posted a bunch of times, but I was very excited when the album came out because the songs you sent me, and after talking to you guys, it was such a good time. I couldn't wait to hear what was going on throughout the album. So that being said, we did play about 3 songs from the album that now we're going to get to a few more that have never been aired on the air, and we'll get them in just a few minutes here. But the first thing before we get to that is we talked briefly about the arrangements of the songs and how you want it to flow as far as lyrics and music, and make sure it kind of connected properly and didn't kind of, we'll say, falter at all. And it's just one of those albums that it's one of the first albums in a long time I've actually been very appreciative of, and I've been able to listen to it all the way through, like, all at once, because I'll admit there are a lot of albums that I'll listen to and I'll skip a song or two and I'll come back to them later, but I'll listen to that later and I don't think it flowed as well. But this album was just very good, and it's been pretty much on repeat in the car, so it's been very nice to listen to every morning on the way to work.
Oh wow.
Oh, thank you.
And let me tell you, it's starting to spread around here too as well, because I've been telling people about it and telling them to listen to the interview. So you're getting starting to develop some more fans here in Canada.
That's fabulous to hear. Thank you.
Yes, it is great to hear.
So yeah, and like I said, I just very much appreciate of it. So we're gonna get into just the 5th track on the album here. And the song's called "Lines in the Mirror," and actually, this is one of my favorite tunes on this album. So we'll dig this right now.
Great.
Lines in the mirror, telling a truth she may not want to hear. Time signs of fear, quicksilver proof is you do. Their guess is true. One seat alone points a finger at you. Lost and lonely girl, all alone in the world. Sleepwalk, feel not, drift through your days. Sleepwalk, feel not, lost in your maze. Moon melts the evening, sharing your bed with a doubt and a dream. Struggle for meaning, filling your head with the lies you have seen. Lost and lonely girl, all alone in the world. Sleepwalk, feel not, drift through your days. Sleepwalk, feel not, lost in your maze. Sleepwalk, feel not, drift through your days. Sleepwalk, feel not, lost in your
Talking about lines in the mirror, and this is a really good tune. And we were talking about off the air that you weren't sure whether it was going to do well or not, and this is probably one of my favorite tunes on the album.
That is so great to hear. It was one of my favorite tunes. It was actually when I think we went over this with you. Nolan was originally going to put a solo album together, and this was one of the songs that got left behind. It wasn't actually chosen to be on his solo album. And then I heard a demo of Nolan playing it on YouTube, just acoustic and vocal. And I just thought it was amazing. So I really wanted to kind of resurrect it a little bit. When we first started planning to put it on the album, it was going to be just more of an acoustic piece without any of the country, and also have a string quartet or string trio. It was going to have string trio. It was going to have a totally different feel. And then when we got into the studio with Dennis on the bass player and Chris on drums, it just took on a whole new life and it went a completely different direction. And we were really happy with how it turned out.
And well, and that's the thing is with some of these old songs is when you kind of resurrect them, it's time for change because it's been dormant for, we'll say anywhere from 3 months and on, but you get a chance to kind of give it a different twist to it because now you're in a different set of mind, so you're thinking differently. So it's been however long it's been, but now let's say the song that was once, let's say kind of we'll say angry, has now turned into more of a mellow but still a decent tune, but it's changed a little bit just because now you're thinking differently. Now things have changed, that sort of thing. So it always makes it interesting when that stuff sort of happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention that you get some more creative minds in on the process. As we've said before, both of those men were just tremendous artists in their own right, and they brought a lot to the process. So that's how that song turned out.
Oh, right on. Like I said, it's definitely one of my favorite tunes on the album itself.
That's great.
So, well done with that one. It's definitely not a kind of push aside song at all. It's definitely one to listen to plenty, and we have quite a few people listening right now, so that's awesome. And I'm so happy to have you guys back on because it was so much fun the first time.
Yeah.
So,
Had a good time.
so next up, we're gonna get into another song here in just a moment.
Okay.
But before we get to that, I was pretty much after listening to the album a few times, I looked at the arrangement, just the way that the song titles lined up, and the one thing I noticed is a couple of them kind of flowed. Well, they all flowed very well, but there's two in particular that pretty much flowed more or less by name as opposed to music. The music was still good, but it flowed more by name than did the music. And we're actually kind of going reverse here because we just played Lines in the Mirror, and now we're going to go back to the track 4 on the album, which is House of Mirrors. Right. So do you care to elaborate a little bit on that? Was that just an idea of kind of combining two songs but splitting them up?
No, not really. I seem to have some kind of a fascination with mirrors, I guess, as a metaphor. No, House of Mirrors actually is very much an autobiographical story about Catherine and I and how our paths crossed very early on in our life. And then we both went our separate ways. And essentially, we were each lost in our respective house of mirrors for quite some time before we reconnected and found each other. So that is what that song is about.
Well, probably not the only one, but you think House of Mirrors, you think of like a carnival, you think of the mirror house, right? You know, one makes you look, there's a whole bunch of different mirrors that make you look a whole bunch of different ways.
Correct.
Exactly.
So, and it's just one way to look at it too, because we're constantly evolving, whether it's artistically or just internally. You know, people change, and despite popular belief where people do change. So it's always evolving. It's always kind of interesting to see what people come up with, and especially if they're musically inclined and are doing the band like you guys are together, to see how it turns out, because there's so much ideas and stuff that can happen, because so much is changing constantly and so quickly that it's kind of almost hard to keep up at some points.
You go ahead. No, you've absolutely nailed it. There's that aspect of that song, and also with the Funhouse mirrors and all that. It's like sometimes you don't know where you are and which way to turn, and so I think that was another part of the imagery that Nolan was going for. So, yeah, there's a lot to that song.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered the evolution part of it in your life, but yeah, that's very much the case. I had thought of the House of Mirrors as essentially a place where you get lost, but yeah, I like what you said. That's very nice.
But you're right. You're absolutely right, because you can get lost in that too. You know, just because there's so many different images that it's kind of hard to make it around, especially when they're all so close together and all kind of right up in your, for lack of better words, up in your face at once. So it's
right.
It's hard to kind of distinguish the separation at first, because it's somewhat overwhelming.
Yes, very much so.
And that is obviously a lot about how life is, and the better it can be kind of written down and then put into it artistically. You know, it can sound really good, or the other end of the spectrum is it's really bad. But you guys have seemed to nailed it. And Nolan, I know, like we talked about before in the first interview, that a few of these songs are stuff that you wrote and they're more or less personal experiences. And it was a bit of an adventure to have you not necessarily rewrite them, but have them sung by Catherine at a different level.
Yeah, although this one was written specifically for Catherine's voice, so I very much heard her singing it when I was writing it. And she exceeded my expectations. I thought she did a fabulous job.
That's because it was great material. I have to say, every time Nolan writes a new song, I'm absolutely always blown away by the lyrics. Sometimes it takes me a while to kind of get my head around them. Sometimes I have to ask him specifically what he means, because so much of it is deals with imagery, and so I always quiz him as, what did this mean? What were your ideas behind it? Just so that I can make sure I interpret it correctly.
Well, fair enough, and that's a good way to go about it, because the last thing you want is start singing and have it completely misinterpreted as a way as no one had perceived it initially.
Right. I think he would let me know right away.
Yeah. But that being said, just we're gonna get to the song in just a moment here. But just the whole album, guys, I literally can't say enough good things about this album. Like I really do enjoy it. And between the lyric writing, the music, and Catherine, I love your voice, and I love your different variety. Like we talked about the first time, like I was pretty sure you had some sort of classical opera background, and I was right nailed it on the head with that. And I was really excited to hear about that, because it makes the music that much more interesting. So
that's great to hear. And it's been fun for me to, as they say, stretch a little bit and try some new styles, and it's been great fun.
Well, right on. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're one step back, and we're going to go to track 4. The song's called House of Mirrors. Take this.
On the other side of town, she was waiting to be found. He didn't hear his heart insisting. They were living lives alone. She was waiting by the phone. So many chances he was missing. 40 years, house of mirrors. Which way should they go? They had gone their separate ways, left behind those early days. Entangled lives were none the wiser. Life had whittled down their dreams, falling victim to the schemes, defeated by the compromiser. 40 years, house of mirrors. Which way should they go? Lost in tears as darkness steers the glow. Please find me. Please
right on. That was Mad Anderson's with House of Mirrors, and we've already kind of briefly talked about this song, but I kind of like the it's somewhat of a dark feel to it because it's just a bit lower, a little bit more monotone than normal.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably was intentionally understated. I think both in terms of your performance, Nolan, and in mine as well. We did some interesting things on that song that we didn't do on others. We I don't know if you noticed, but we kept the breaths in. Lots of times when you record, you'll actually remove that sound because it just doesn't fit in musically. But like when I would take a breath, we kept that in, which is sort of unusual, I think, in music today. So we wanted it to sound very, very much like a live performance. So we didn't edit a lot of things out. We just sort of let it happen. And I think on that one, we actually recorded it live.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't do several tracks. That was start to finish, all one track. So it sort of has a different feel to it than the other songs, I think.
Well, that's interesting because I did not notice that at all.
Oh. Yeah, you can hear me gasping for air on that one.
didn't even notice. Didn't even dawn on me at all. I just kind of listened all the way through it. Didn't even notice that part of it. So I'm probably not the only one. So I wouldn't worry too much about that at all.
Well, we kept it in for a reason. So.
Well, but you know, it's fun to do that sort of thing. It's like putting in some of the outtakes before you've actually recorded the song, and sometimes they sound good, sometimes they don't sound so good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we wanted it to sound realistic and live and personal. When I sing music like that, I'm really, really close to the mic so that it picks up every little nuance. So I'm not singing very loud when we do that. That's probably another reason why it sounds sort of understated.
Well, fair enough. But it's still a very good tune. And I'm just actually speaking of, like, say, outtakes and that sort of thing when you're recording a new track, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is the band Incubus on their album called Science. Their very last tune of the song. They are recording the song, and then all you hear is, "Dude, please effing be careful." You almost erase the entire thing. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I thought this was a pause," and because he was recording the performance while they're doing it in the studio, right? So, and they almost erase the entire thing, so they're just a little irritated. So, and stuff like that, you know, it's funny, and it does happen, you know, and there's quite a few albums where that stuff they put the tail end, or they put at the very beginning, and that was one of the ones that stuck out the most because it was just too funny. Like, you can hear, like, he's trying really hard to be nice to the guy, but kind of give him a certain voice at the same time. So it's always funny when people try to attempt that. You know, they want to get their point across, but they don't want to be that mean, so they're trying to do it as best as possible. So that's the way that one turned out, and it was pretty funny, and that's pretty much what reminded me of that right away, because it does happen, and it's interesting sometimes because you never know what's going to come out of it, because a lot of times let's say the first or second take, depending on how many takes are done, no, that's the best one, or at least let's say the opening was the best part of the first take.
Right.
That's true. Catherine is very much a first or second take kind of gal. I don't know. I think once that red light goes on and we start recording, she's on right away, and I'm pretty much guaranteed that we'll get a good take out of her in the first or second one.
Yep, hopefully.
Okay, right on. Well, on that note, we're actually going to get into another song called This Time Around. Dig this.
This time around, maybe I found somebody just like me. Free falling stone, one soul alone, nobody there with me.
right, that was Matt Anderson's with This Time Around, and this song I like because it's just one of those things that you always think about if you had a second chance to do something and you could change it. It's kind of like one of those things that you always think about because obviously hindsight's 2020, but it's always good to think about like what if I did this differently.
Yeah. Nolan, go ahead. No, go.
Yeah, actually that's kind of, there's an interesting story with that. I wrote that. I always write music and melody before I write lyrics, and I had this song completed other than the lyrics, and I didn't know where to go with it. And finally, Catherine came in the room and said, "I know you're struggling with this, and I hear the first line of the song is This Time Around," and I said, "Oh, okay, thank you. You just gave me the lyric here." So I probably had the lyric written within a day or so after that.
Yeah, that's the only lyric I've ever written. Just the title.
Well, at least it's something.
A small contribution.
Well, the vocals are more than enough contribution in itself, so I wouldn't ever worry about the lyrics at all. So we're gonna get into just one more song here in just a few minutes. But when I listen to this album, it's got such a good flow, and I would have to imagine, even though we talked somewhat briefly about this the last time, that it took a lot of kind of effort and kind of like heavy thinking to align this properly, because this was done so well, and just it between the music and the lyrics, kind of ups and downs, and then kind of flowing as the ups and downs in the music as well. It just flowed so nicely and so perfectly, and just wondering like how or just how long kind of took you to arrange it this way that you wanted it.
That's a great question, and I have to say I'm so glad that it's coming across like that. Oddly enough, I think the interior of the album, meaning the like songs maybe 3 through 8, went together pretty well. The middle went together pretty well. It was knowing what to begin with. The first couple of songs, I struggled with that, which, what do you want to be your opening cut? So I would take them and I would just put them in order. I'd listen to the first part of a song and the last part of a song, and then I would follow it up with something else. And we went over that process for months, literally, just trying to figure out how it's going to actually fit together. It's very much like putting a puzzle together. I was pretty convinced, I think we both were, that Crowded Rooms was going to be the last song, because how can you top that?
Well, yeah.
It was such a great ender, so we thought, okay, well, that's the final track. So everything else, it was a little struggle actually coming up with the first two, the order of the first two.
Well, I know I can definitely see that, because the one thing that I've talked about through many interviews is just the arrangement in general of the EP and or album, just because it's not as simple as people think it may be, because it's a matter of making the songs flow together properly. And even when you're writing them, even though they've been written, let's say a few months to a year ago, trying to rework it and trying to get to the point where you want it and it flows nicely is not as easy as people think, because now you're altering a little bit, not only because, let's say, your artistic styles have changed or your musical likes have changed, that sort of thing.
Right.
And it's kind of trying to mesh everything into one, so it's quite the job. It's quite the task to attend to. So
it is, and I think one of the things we have talked about last time, this album is a mix of Nolan's older material,
right,
by older, and some of the new stuff that he had written within the last year, more specifically for my voice. So how do you take the new stuff and integrate it with the old stuff so that you still have some sort of continuity, both in terms of content and lyrics and also in style? So that's why I think a lot of the songs, like Lines in the Mirror, we changed the style of them to sort of fit with the newer material a little bit better. That was quite a process.
Yeah, we went through a stage there for probably a month or so, where we were considering just dropping all of the songs that had bass and drums in them and making it a completely acoustic, non-rhythm section album, because the tunes that had a rhythm section in them were, in my mind anyway, so different than the stuff I was writing currently, and I couldn't wrap my head around how am I going to put Lines in the Mirror and House of Mirrors on the same album. They just weren't working, and so we took a look at the instrumentation and the approach to those band tunes, and I think it ended up working pretty well.
It did well, and the big change that you made was you pretty much eliminated electric guitar and went to acoustic guitar, which made the sound fit better with our more acoustic material.
Well, that, and also fits a little bit more in with your vocal talents there, Catherine, just because, like, I mean, electric will fit well, but the way you carry yourself, I find it fits a little bit more smoothly with the acoustic and the electric.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not a rock singer, and some of Nolan's tunes originally were more rock songs, and I kind of sound ridiculous, actually. Honestly, trying to sing over the top of some really cool band stuff, it just didn't work for me. So it didn't serve the material very well. So I think this was a good adjustment that we made.
Well, it definitely sounds good. And just before we get into one of the last tunes of the night, I had read this earlier, and I mentioned this earlier on Blogger's Corner, and I heard a little snippet of it. Wasn't that impressed because just quickly, some bands will do covers of past bands that have had like how many number one tunes, that sort of thing. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. And this time I wasn't a big fan of it. James Hetfield from Metallica did a cover of the Beatles song acoustically, My Life, and yeah, not so good. It probably shouldn't have done that at all.
Wow.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's lyrically, it's very in depth, and just the whole thing, it's kind of a sad tune as well. I wasn't a big fan, but that aside, I just thought I'd mention that very quickly about how you can only get a kind of change with what you're singing and how the music comes out, and see if you can adjust to it. So that was one thing, and it doesn't always work in that case. Just, at least in my opinion, didn't work, but no. I'm sure other people disagree with me, but that's not a big deal. So,
yeah.
Next up, we're going to move into one of the last songs that we haven't heard from this new album, Glass Through Light. The song is called My Daughter's Eyes. Dig this.
Till I let you know
right. That was Mad Anderson's with My Daughter's Eyes. Now, this was a bit more mellow tune, maybe a bit more lyrically hard-hitting. Now, was this a collaboration, no one, or was this one of your original songs?
It's one of my original songs, inspired by a photograph of my daughter. I was married before, and when we were divorced, my daughter ended up staying with my ex, and so I didn't really get to spend as much time with her as I would have liked, in her younger years. So anyway, I found myself looking at this picture of her and wishing that I could say these things to her. So I put it into a song.
Well, that's very deep, and I could definitely tell that it was more of a deeper song when I listened to it initially. So I would just, I hope I didn't open up any old wounds, but I'm just very curious about the song in general. So
Yeah, that was. I probably took the most care with that song because it was so personal, and so when I'm singing it, I'm actually singing it to his daughter. Definitely, I feel like I'm being Nolan's voice on that one.
Well, and you've established a very close relationship with her.
Right. I mean, she's my daughter too. So.
well, and that's so nice because just a quick we'll call it my comparison. If people who don't know, before the Beatles song "Hey Jude" was written, John's first song Julian, it was then called "Hey Jules," but he changed it because Jude sounds so much better. So you never know what can happen, how people can come together and change things altogether.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I know that's kind of a random point, but I just one of the first things I thought of right away because like I'm one of those people that I know a lot of random information, a lot of we'll call it maybe even useless information about about different bands, but it sticks out, and like I love finding out about this stuff. So. Well, and the thing is too, Nolan, is it's nice too that a lot like many artists where they kind of the person kind of deeper into what they've gone through in the past or what they're going through at that point in time, and it's always interesting because in some cases people can relate to that, and sometimes people can't, but they still can like enjoy the music as well.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hope that this would have a pretty universal appeal to any parent, at least, could identify with it, whether they'd had a rocky relationship with their child or not. It's what's I try to put in there things that every parent would want to say to a child.
And that's good, and that's it gives people different perspective when they listen to this sort of thing, because not all songs are like this song in particular that you wrote, because that's just the way it is. It's more or less the kind of the popular stuff. So when something like this kind of what called hard-hitting comes up, it makes that much more impact because people want to hear a lot more, and they're like, no, this is special because we don't hear this all the time, and I can relate to this because of this reason. So it's always a good way to go about things.
Yeah.
So we're almost right at the mark here, guys. But
that's what we're afraid of.
yeah. But again, it was so much fun, and it was a lot of fun to go through some of the songs we didn't hear now that the album is released, and it's called The Glass Through Light. And I saw the other day that apparently Crybaby is out of copies of it.
Yeah. Yes. We keep getting notifications from them that they want us to send them some. So we've been sending restocks about every few days now. So it's weird. We actually don't know how many we've sold because we don't get an accounting on it. So we'll find out eventually.
Yeah, I think they're 90 days behind.
Yeah, sometimes it takes 3 months to find out how many. So That's okay. We're thrilled.
We're happy to send them out.
Yeah.
Well, no kidding. Well, either way, it sounds like you're doing extremely well, and I don't blame people for picking it up because they should, and it's such a good album. So, once again, guys, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you back on the show.
Oh, thank you. It was
Thank
our
you
pleasure.
for having us. Yes.
Yeah.
And
great to
not a
talk.
problem. So, I'll get you guys to hold on for 1 second. So, guys, this will wrap up our Killer Music Night. And that was the Mad Andersons talking about their brand new album, Light Through Glass. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening. Bones out.